Hey, welcome to Bodacious Tenacity. I am so excited about today's guest because we have been friends through LinkedIn for about a year, and I have been dying to have him on. So, Miguel Olave is the manager of some of the biggest content creators on social media, but he didn't start out that way, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, welcome, Miguel.
Thank you for having me, Jamie. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here and have a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, right?
Yeah, it has been. It's been great to know you and getting to see your journey over the years, and you stepping out to do this podcast is pretty amazing, so I'm excited to support.
Oh, thank you so much. So, I want to start with, can you just give us a thumbnail sketch of your background in terms of your work because it's very interesting what you've done in your career.
Yeah, no, I thank you. I've always been a creative at heart. I've always loved to tell stories since I was a young kid. Spanish is my first language, but
Mm,
I quickly learned English. I read dictionaries, encyclopedias, thesauruses. I was just always trying to learn and observe, and that's how I learned mostly is through observing others. And so, watch stories. I would watch documentaries. I watched the news always trying to inform myself of what stories were being told, what was the news of the day, and how I could also tell stories one day. And so I've always been a creative. And then in 2019, I started to write stories on LinkedIn actually. And so
mm,
quickly on LinkedIn, I started to grow my own account. I started to grow a personal brand, talking about conversations of mental health. My intention for creating content on LinkedIn was we don't talk about mental health enough in professional
mm,
spaces. Um,
mm.
there's a lot of grassroots efforts from working from the ground up. LinkedIn provides an opportunity for me to maybe reach some people and create some change from the top down. And so that's what led me to LinkedIn and talk about mental health.
I want to ask you something. What were you doing professionally at that time when you started
Um,
doing that?
when I started doing that, I actually was waiting tables. And so I was in
Oh,
between
wow.
jobs at the time. I had just left retail sales. I was really unhappy, I was doing mobile sales, phone sales, and
Mm-hmm.
I'd worked for a couple of different companies and they all work the same. Essentially, you have young, hungry, managers that are training you to sell in the
Mm-hmm.
most just slimy ways, taking advantage of people,
Yeah.
and after a while, it really weighed on me, and I wasn't happy going home, sleeping at night, knowing I had taken advantage of somebody or I'd tricked somebody into something they didn't have to do.
Mm,
And
mm.
so I ended up quitting the sales space, and I was in between. I was looking for something, what was next. And so when I
Ah,
started
okay.
creating content on LinkedIn, I was actually just waiting tables. I didn't have a fancy title or a fancy background or fancy
Mm-hmm.
connections. I don't come from a college degree. And so I just went on LinkedIn and just started to create. And again, from a perspective of just somebody waiting tables at Olive Garden trying to figure his way out.
That's amazing because you have a very large following on LinkedIn. How many followers do you have?
I think right now, I think it's like 33,000
Yeah,
followers.
yeah, I thought it was somewhere in there. So I think it's just amazing that you've amassed these followers writing about something that's so important that really isn't written about on LinkedIn. And I want to get to like what we're here to talk about. But I do find that really interesting. Is that what led you into ghostwriting?
Yeah, definitely. So I started to create content that was just organically very, again, raw, vulnerable, open. It took me a couple of years to really get to that place. I had been wanting
Mm-hmm.
to do it, but I had been scared of what it would do for me, what the doors that it would close for me, the opportunities that it would, eggs me out from. And so, I thought people won't think I'm capable. People will think I'm not, able to do the job. I'm disorganized, this, that, and the other if I talked about mental health. And so I started to talk about it anyways. And then I was proven wrong. I started to have people reach out to me, executives, CEOs, C-suite workers who were reaching out and saying, "Hey, Miguel, I see you're growing your account. I love the way that you tell your stories. Can you help me tell my stories?" And so that thing
Wow.
just led, I didn't even know LinkedIn ghostwriting was a thing. I loved writing. I'd done creative writing. I grew up in journalism. I was in chief for newspaper in high school for 2 years. So I knew writing, but I just didn't know how to LinkedIn ghostwrite. And so I remember my first client that I had, I was pretty blunt with her of telling her, like, I have no idea what LinkedIn ghostwriting is, but if you're willing to give me a chance, I'm willing to figure it out with you and we can figure it out together. And we figured it out together. We actually grew her business page to about 70,000 followers. And it wasn't a personal page, it was actually a business page back in 2019 when doing that wasn't very easy. And so, yeah, it was, I mean, it turned into a whole business that I didn't even know existed. But one thing led to another. It was all just referrals. I've never done ads. I've never promoted myself as a LinkedIn ghostwriter on LinkedIn. I've never
Mm-hmm.
asked for, referrals. It's all just been word of mouth referrals or people
Mm-hmm.
reaching out to me based on my content. So I've been really blessed in that way.
Yeah, I want to ask you first of all, what specifically were you writing about when you were writing about mental health? Because you said
Yeah,
that it was scary. You were writing about your own personal struggles.
yeah, I was writing through my own journey, and so I think the place that I was at is I was in 2016. I had had a mental breakdown at work. When I started writing on LinkedIn, I definitely was writing from a personal perspective. I felt like so often in these mental health conversations and especially professional spaces, the people that I was seeing talking about mental health was from a 2020 perspective, like long after they had healed or long after they had time to think about their
Mm-hmm.
journey. And I didn't see
Mm-hmm.
anybody, especially any Latino men, talking about going through their mental health journey through it in real time. And so I thought that's a perspective that I could add to the conversation is talking about it as I experienced it and as I was going through therapy myself, as I was learning new methods, as I was coming to learn more about myself. And so that's what I was
And
writing about was my own healing journey as it was happening in real time.
do you mind me asking, or do you mind telling us what the specific issue was?
Yeah, so I actually, like I said, in 2016, I ended up having a mental health breakdown, and then I went to a therapist and got diagnosed with I had generalized anxiety disorder and severe depression. And so there was a lot of childhood events that had happened that I had really kind of pushed down and pushed away. One being I was abused as a child, and so I had kind of
Oh,
your brain does a thing where it's like fight or flight, and so my brain like really tucked that away for as long as I could remember, and I had totally forgot about it until an incident happened at work, and that it triggered that event again, and so I remembered about that, and then so went to therapy to figure that out and unpack that, and then also
mm-hmm.
started to just unpack so many other childhood things that happened to so many of us in life that we think, oh, it wasn't a big deal or it was okay, so we tuck it away and we put it away in a safe space to where we don't have to
Mm-hmm.
think about it or talk about it. But then at some point in some point in time, that ends up coming up in whether it's in the way we treat others, the way we, lash out at others, the way we get upset or certain things. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
as I went to therapy, I started to just uncover all these other things that I was working through.
So, this podcast is not about rewards for persisting through fear. It's about persisting through fear. But I do think it's very interesting that you were afraid to post these things, that it might limit your opportunities. And instead, it gave you a whole new career that you didn't even know existed. So,
Yeah.
have you reflected on that?
Um, I think about it all the time about how I allowed my fear to hold me where I was for so many years,
Mm-hmm.
and how I continue to, I continue to have moments in my career where I'm maybe a little scared to take that step or to do that thing or
Mm-hmm.
to ask
Mm-hmm.
that question. But then I remember I have so many proof points from other times that I've in spite of the fear, with the fear, still moved and did something, made an action, and I was rewarded for it on the other end. Like it worked out. And so I keep going
Exactly.
back to those moments. Anytime I'm scared or anytime I have fear that's trying to hold me back, I remember the times that I won when I did do that. And so it motivates me to keep moving. Like I said, it doesn't get rid of my fear. Those fears are still there, very
Mm-hmm.
prevalent, very loud in my head, trying to keep me where I'm at. But it's about just learning how to move through with those fears instead of just waiting for them to be gone.
Wow. So I know that you, going from ghostwriting on LinkedIn, you started a ghostwriting company that you scaled very quickly. So can you just briefly tell me about that?
Yeah. Um, Thankfully, and it all happened through LinkedIn, like through a lot of inbound interest. But I ended up partnering with someone to start a LinkedIn ghostwriting agency on LinkedIn, and so it was specifically just focused on helping people blow up their LinkedIn and establish an intentional presence on LinkedIn that drove in profit, sales, or whatever their goals were. And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I scaled that to 1.6 million in annual recurring revenue. We had about 45 clients, had a team of 9 people. And it was a really fun time. I mean, a fun time. I say I was working quite a bit. I was working
Yeah.
70, 80 hours a week,
Oh,
trying
whoa.
to win this and make it what it was. And then I just got to a place where I was just in a different place in my life. My partner was in a different place in his life, and we were going in different directions and where we wanted the business to go. So we decided to part ways at that point in the summer of 24. So I got an exit buyout and just had ever since then have been trying to pivot my way into the creator economy.
So I just want to clarify, when you scaled the business, that was in a period of what, about a year
Yep.
that you
Yep.
got it
Yep.
over $1 million? That's unbelievable to me as a ghostwriter. So yeah, so we've had lots of conversations about this. So tell me about getting into the content space and the story about when you first noticed Romeo, and what you were thinking when you saw their content, and then what happened when that video came out in December last year.
Yeah, so I had always wanted to. It'd been a couple of years that I'd been wanting to move into the creator space. I was just trying to find the right door to step into or the right person to give me a chance and let me in. And so, right as I was growing the LinkedIn ghostwriting agency in 2022, I had reached out to a couple of creators and done a couple of deals that amounted to a little over 500,000 in deals that I did for a couple of creators. And so I got my taste of being an agent, a manager,
Mm-hmm.
and but then my LinkedIn ghostwriting agency started to take off, and so I really had to let go of the creator stuff and focus on the LinkedIn agency. So I did that, focused on the LinkedIn agency. It grew. Like I said, I exited, and at that time when I exited, I got to a place where, like I said, I got a little buyout. So I was blessed to where I was able to really sit with myself and really decide what is it that I do want to do. What is exciting me right now? Where do I want to go? And the creator economy and being a talent manager, a talent agent really kept coming up, and I really wanted to do that. And so, as soon as I left that agency, in like I said, summer of 24, I ended up just embedding myself into the creator economy as much as I could. And so I found all the creator, conferences that were going on, all the creator economy conferences that I could attend, events that I could go to. And so the very first one, right when I left the LinkedIn agency, just a few weeks later, there was a conference going on in France, Cannes Lion, and it's a largest marketing conference in the world of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought my ticket and took myself out there. It was the first time that Cannes Lion was actually having a creator focus, and so
Mm-hmm.
I applied to be a creator for Cannes Lion, got accepted, took myself out there, and started to just network with people in the creator space. Um,
You've made it sound like so easy, but it's so extraordinary to me because this is a whole new industry, right? You haven't been in this industry. So first of all, how did you get accepted to go to Cannes Lion? And how did you know that that's where you needed to go? I'm really curious about that as well. Like, what did you hope to accomplish when you went to these conferences, particularly Cannes, because that's one of the biggest in the world?
yeah, and so. Remember how I told you like in 22 I had gotten a little taste of the creator economy, and so
Mm-hmm.
I had at that point started to follow some people in the creator space. So anytime I found somebody that was a decision maker or a mover shaker in the creator economy, I did follow them. I connected with them just to observe them, just to see like what's going on in the space. Let me stay informed, let me stay in the know. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was following people in the space for a few years. And so when I started to look at where I need to be, and Canline was having their first creator track. I knew like I needed to be at one of the first there. It was the first year that it was going to ever happen. This
Mm-hmm.
means that there was going to be people that were going to help shape what it was going to become, since it was going to
Mm-hmm.
be there. And
Mm-hmm.
so I decided like, yeah, I need to be there. And so I ended up applying to be a creator that goes to Canline. And so I ended up applying, and thankfully at that point I had built up a little following on LinkedIn. My personal brand at that point was around like 25,000 or so, and so
Okay.
that allowed me to pitch myself as a creator. And so I went there as a creator, not a creator management or talent or anything like that. I just went there as a mental health creator is what I pet pitched myself as. And so that's what
Mm-hmm.
got me into the creator program at Can Lions and got me there in 24.
Okay. That's so interesting. You have such a great knack for knowing where you need to be. That's something I've noticed in all of our conversations that you really have you have a very sixth sense about, oh, that's the room I need to be in and this is how I need to get into that room. You're
Yeah,
smiling, so I'm guessing that you agree with that
yeah, that's
assessment.
funny. It's because I'll have to tell you, yeah, about some rooms that I got myself into when I was in Can Line this past summer. But um, so yeah, after returning from Can Lion that summer, I ended up going to the White House. It was when President Biden was there. They were organizing the first Creator Economy Conference, and so they
Mm-hmm.
were inviting 100 creators to come out to the White House and talk about the future of the creator economy. Like I said, they invited 100 people in the creator economy, and so I knew those other 99 people that were there with me were clearly people that were experts or knowledgeable about the creator economy. And so I
Mm-hmm.
started to follow them, started to build relationships with those people, really observe them and learn about them, and
Mm-hmm.
how they were doing business so that when my moment came that I would be prepared for it. At that point, I had started to reach out to people. I had started to reach out to creators, just sending emails. Hey, I'd love to manage you. Give me a chance. I see you're blowing
Mm-hmm.
up. The same things that I had been doing and just wasn't getting anywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
then in May of 2025, I was just scrolling on TikTok and saw this video that just made me bust out laughing. Like I was just like stomach hurting laughing. It was just hilarious. And I was like, oh my gosh, this person is hilarious. It's funny and I need to follow them. So I followed them on TikTok, and then I kept seeing their videos over time. And that video, after a couple of days, that same video that I saw, I ended up seeing it again, but this time it was actually posted on Drake's account, the big musician, huge
Mm-hmm.
rapper. And so Drake, the video that Romeo had made that I saw was this is how I would direct a video for Drake if I was his video director. And so Romeo goes on
Oh,
this
oh.
rant talking about how they would direct the video. And then a couple of days later, again, I see this video and it's on Drake's account that he had posted. And so what he did is he took Romeo's video, put that into AI, and had AI create those scenes that Romeo wanted to create. And so it was a cool
That's
video.
incredible.
Yeah, it was funny, and he posted it all over his social medias on his main accounts, and so it went mega viral. Romeo started to get a lot of attention, and at that point, I had actually thought about maybe reaching out to Romeo. I'm like, Romeo is getting some attention. This
Mm-hmm.
Drake thing could really blow up and take them off because all it takes is one viral video, but what matters is what people do with that viral video. And so many people
Mm-hmm.
have no marketing sense, have no business sense, they're not from these spaces. And so when something goes viral, they don't know what to do with it. And so a lot of times that you only
Mm.
have a short window to really do
Yeah.
something with it, and so many people miss that window. And so I had almost reached out to Romeo at that point in time when that first video, the Drake video, started to blow up, but it felt like it wasn't the right time. And so I kept following Romeo, kept engaging their content over the summer, over the fall, and then this video pops up come Christmas, of a Dr. Pepper jingle, and I was like, oh man, that's catchy. And at that time, it was just at like 2 or 3 million views. I was like, man, that's really catchy. And
Only
then
2 or 3 million views.
right, right. And compared to what I'm about to tell you, and then Christmas comes, and I'm just sitting there scrolling with the family, and I see that the video went from 2 million to 9 million, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this video is gonna blow up. I should reach out to Romeo. And so this was the 25th of, it was Christmas. But then the first thought was like, it's Christmas. Like, I need to leave people alone. I need to not reach out on Christmas. And so I was like, okay, let me just keep my eye on it and look at it tomorrow and see what happens tomorrow. And so then the morning came the next day and it was at like 12 million. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to reach out to Romeo.
Okay, so we had some technical difficulties with Miguel's audio, so we're going to try it without the headphones. We're going to take up again where we were, which is on the day after Christmas and what was happening with Romeo's video.
Yeah, so that video, like I said, it started to take off in the day of the 26th, so the day after Christmas. I just remember watching that video and thinking I need to reach out to Romeo. And so all day I kept like talking myself out of it, telling myself Romeo probably already has somebody. Remember they blew up when the Drake video happened. They probably got signed
Mm-hmm.
at that point. Romeo's probably already taken care of, and just all these thoughts. I mean, I don't have extensive experience. I don't come from huge contacts, and so there was all these thoughts that kept coming in of telling myself why I shouldn't reach out to Romeo.
It's all the fear
Um,
going through your head, right? All those fears.
Exactly, all the fear of
Yeah.
what I didn't know, all the
Mm-hmm.
things that could happen, and so finally, I remember it was like at 2 o'clock. After thinking about it for a couple of hours throughout the day, I finally just like I'm like screw it, I'm just gonna send this email, and so I wrote an email out, pitching myself on who I was, not what I did, because I didn't have experience as a manager, and so it's not like I could talk a lot about deals that I had closed and all this experience as a
Mm-hmm.
manager. And so instead, I just talked about who I was as a person and as a creative, and so that email ended up getting Romeo's attention, and we got on the phone immediately that very next day, and then we ended up signing. And so by the 27th, I had signed Romeo, and we were off to the races.
Wow. So, do you mind sharing what was in the email that you wrote to Romeo?
Yeah, yeah, I had just shared to Romeo like I'm a father to four boys. I'm a husband of 12 years. I just live a humble life in Kansas. I'm aspiring manager. I want to be a manager, but I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
typical person from Hollywood or New York. I just live a good life. I'm just looking for good people to work with. I
Mm-hmm.
did talk a little bit about my background, having grown a LinkedIn agency, having some entrepreneurial mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
My resilience, stuff like that. A lot of soft skills is what I touched on and sold myself in.
That's interesting.
Being about wanting to work with people that I could trust, that I could be proud of the work that I was doing, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's really what I wrote and what I shared with Romeo.
What has Romeo ever said anything about that email about why that resonated with them?
Yeah, exactly that. Romeo's told me that it was because I talked about being a family man.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about my what grounds me is my faith in God, and so I was bold about that as well, in my
Mm-hmm.
email with Romeo, and that resonated with them as well. Romeo liked that I pitched myself as a family man, and again, Romeo really appreciated that I pitched myself as who I was and not just what I did, because Romeo was getting other pitches for managers and agents wanting to represent them, but Romeo again really appreciated just the way that I leaned into who I was, and so that's what Romeo says connected with them.
That is such a great story of persisting through fear. And what I love about it is that you went ahead and did what you wanted to do, but you didn't change who you are to do it. You didn't pretend that you were anything other than what you were, which is somebody very sincere who wanted to get into the business, who had been watching Romeo's content. And I think that's something so important to remember, because I think a lot of us, when we're afraid, we try to remake ourselves in whatever image, the image of the person that's going to receive what we're giving, what we think that they want. And so that's one of the things I really respect about you and love about your story, is that you don't do that. You're just very authentic with who you are.
Yeah.
And I think it also shows that people really respond to it, because that's how you built your LinkedIn as well, by just being authentic and not pretending to be something else. So, um, for people who are not familiar with Romeo and Dr. Pepper Jingle and everything, can you just briefly tell what happened with that, with what the original video was? And then I think also it wasn't just potential agents coming after Romeo, it was actually brands coming after Romeo. Is that right?
Hmm. Yeah, and so Romeo had been creating content on TikTok for a couple of years now, heavily since 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Really invested trying to create just a community talking about their own mental health, telling story times of, you know, things that had happened throughout their life and giving it a comedic twist, being funny, dancing. And
Mm-hmm.
so in it's funny actually. In December, I was in of 25, December 16th of 25. Romeo actually posted a video on TikTok talking about what they wanted to manifest for 2026. And in the video, Romeo talks about wanting to do more brand deals, wanting to make a career out of content, out of their creativity, wanting to make a living
Wow.
out of creativity,
Mm-hmm.
and just wanting to do some fun content. And so it was so funny because, again, that happened on the 16th, and then on the 22nd is when Romeo posted this video. And so it's an 11-second video, and Romeo's laying on their bed, and literally most people would never film from their bed with the angle that shows their chin. and so Romeo just did that just naturally, who they were. They weren't worried about their appearance or their look or the angle, or even the lighting of the video. Romeo
Mm-hmm.
just went on, pulled the phone out, and sang a little jingle that went, Dr. Pepper, baby, it's good and nice, doo doo doo.
Do do
And
do.
the video is 11 seconds long, but that little jingle is just 7 seconds long. And so that 7 second long jingle, it was posted as a video or to TikTok. Romeo tagged Dr. Pepper and said, "Dr. Pepper, hit me up. We could make thousands." and and then that video just blew up. It started to grow into the millions, multi-millions. By
Mm-hmm.
the time the new year had come around, we were sitting at around 30 million views for that video. It just kept getting shared, kept getting people were watching it. And I think what really did it was that community that Romeo had built. Romeo had already had about 150,000 followers at that point. And so when the Dr. Pepper video came around, those 150,000 followers essentially became Romeo's like guerrilla marketing team, their unhired, voluntary marketing team. They were
Wow.
sharing with people, they were tagging their friends, they were
Yeah.
sharing it with anyone and everyone. And so that just continued to blow up. And so conversations started to happen. A lot of brands started to reach out. Competitors of Dr. Pepper started to reach out, wanting, to do something. But Romeo genuinely loves Dr. Pepper and enjoys that drink, and so we did everything that we could to work with Dr. Pepper to then pitch that to be a commercial. And so
Wow.
we worked with Dr. Pepper. We worked with our agency to then turn that jingle into a commercial that aired during the National College Football Championship game. And it's one of the biggest games for many years, just because the teams that were there were underdogs. They weren't expected to be there. So many other things that were happening that made the game just huge, really, really huge. And so we were able to get the commercial to air during those games. It aired twice during the game, and it just took things to the next level. Within a couple of weeks, that jingle went from 30 million views to now I think it's sitting at 150 million views.
150.
Yeah, yeah.
Their original video. Um, yeah, I want to go back to this first deal with Dr. Pepper because that's a great story as well of sitting with your fear and sitting with uncertainty. So, do you mind sharing that as well of how that deal came about?
Yeah. I actually recorded the calls on one of the AI systems, and I was rewatching them the other day, and it was funny just because the first call that we had with them lasted maybe like 15 minutes long, just because I knew what I wanted, what we wanted for Romeo, and again,
Mm-hmm.
the whole reason why I stepped into this role as a manager for people that are underrepresented, people of color, is because brands are so quick to take advantage of creators, especially creators that don't come from these industries, that don't understand the real value, the real money behind, these ads and marketing, and so,
Mm-hmm.
um, they came in, just really pushing for one thing, and it took me like really, again, through in spite of the fear of pushing forward and negotiating and saying no and sticking my foot in the ground and of what we wanted, and which was all scary because again, I didn't know if those were the right things to be doing. I didn't know if
Mm-hmm.
me saying no to the initial offers would make them go away or scare them away. And so there were so many things that were going through my head of, did you ruin it? Did you mess that up? Should you not have said that? But I was just, again, figuring it out as I was going through the fear, pushing forward, asking for what I knew was right, pushing forward for what I knew we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Because in no negotiation and any no brands ever come to the table with their best and final,
Right.
and so it takes you really being that kind of hard ass, to really like lean in and get what you want, and even through the fear. So after that initial call, then we had another call with the business affairs team, and I could see myself like I was anxious in that call, saying
Mm-hmm.
no and demanding for what we wanted, and fighting for what we wanted, and so it was scary, but it ended up working in the end.
So, I think that you told me before that you said what you wanted and they said something like we'll have to set up another call, and you hung up, and then you didn't know if they were going to call back, and you had to sit with that for a day or two. I can't remember the length of time, so I wondered if you could talk about that.
Yeah, well, it definitely was scary. Like I said, when so we had an initial call with the strategy team, and and then we had another call, and then then they presented something. So in that second call is when they presented like their offer, and I just didn't feel like it met the moment. I just didn't feel like it was what was
Mm-hmm.
best for Romeo, and so again, we just continued the conversations. Instead of just saying yes, I continued to ask for, is there opportunity for this, is there availability for this, is there space for this? And yeah, I mean, I left that call terrified of like, man, did I shoot ourselves in the foot? Did I scare them away? Are they going to come back anymore? Are they just going to say no, screw it, we're just not going to do anything with this anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And that literally took about a week and a half before they actually ended up
Whoa.
reaching back out. And so they had told us like, hey, we'll be in touch in before the week is out. And the week came out and we had heard nothing, and then the very next week, at the start of the week, I remember reaching out, and they were like, hey, we're still having conversations, we're still trying to figure it out. And so yeah, I mean, in that time I was definitely scared of, man, did I ruin it, did I ruin our chance?
Mm-hmm.
But knowing in my heart that that was what was valuable, and that's what Romeo really deserved. And so definitely can't talk numbers, but I'll say, it was definitely life changing numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Numbers that would blow your mind in terms of just like what, for one video, one commercial. But the reality is, what I was asking for and the fee that I fought for was also incorporating what had already been done. And so even though that original jingle commercial we didn't wasn't commissioned by Dr. Pepper and it wasn't an official
Hmm.
partnership, I was also talking to them, and the value that I'm asking includes the value that has already been given to you, retroactively. And so we're asking essentially for a retroactive fee for what's already been done on top of what we're doing now with the commercial and the social media posts and stuff. So
Very smart. All those 150,000 guerrilla marketers, right?
yeah,
That
exactly.
had already spread that jingle. I also want to talk a little bit. I want to talk about some of the other deals that you made with Romeo, but I want to talk about that first meeting and then subsequent meetings because you told me previously that you were, in 95% of the cases, you were the only person of color in the room. And I want to talk about that because that's the part of your story that really interested me. And that's why I was pitching it to print outlets, in that this is like the new creator economy, and you are a new kind of agent, and you're coming in and demanding a seat at the table. And it's a table that has largely excluded people of color and women. And so that's the part that I just find really compelling. And I'd love to talk about I don't know if you necessarily had fear or trepidation, but just what that was like, and if it was intimidating, and how you worked through that in that initial negotiation and then in subsequent negotiations as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say that it's always something that's lingering in my mind. And you hear these things of people that are don't live these this life or in these cultures or a different in a different skin color. Everyone's always like, why does it always have to be about race, or why do you always have to think about race, or why is it? And it's like, well, because it's on my skin, it's on my body, it's something that I see every day, and it's something that everybody around me sees every day and notices. It's very
Hmm.
noticeable.
Hmm.
And so it's, yeah, I mean, anytime I'm in spaces where it's like automatically recognizing like, oh man, I'm the only one. And so, and then it's about reading the room of, okay, are these people safe, or what, how do I have to present myself to these people? Do I have to put up my uppity professional super American persona, very corporate talk? Can I be myself? Can I just be who I am? Can I be my creative self? And so it's like always having to enter these rooms and get to know these people a little bit and have a conversation. And after just a couple of words and after just a couple of exchanges, you can really tell where you feel like within the comfort level of someone. And so, yeah, I mean, in all these rooms that you step into, that I realize I'm the only one. I think it's when I ran my LinkedIn agency, that's really when I like gained my confidence of moving past that
Hmm.
and accepting it and acknowledging it, but not letting it paralyze me and not letting it make me play small. Yeah, I think in the one thing that I've learned is not to make myself small in these rooms anymore. I think it's something that I kind of just autopiloted. Anytime I walked into rooms where I felt that I didn't belong, I would make myself small, or I would stay in the corner, or not talk as much, or whatever, all those things. But it's again, over the years, I've continued to have proof points, and I've continued to see that what the opposite does for me, acknowledging that those feelings, but then not letting it keep you there, moving forward and knowing that you were placed there, that you're meant to be there just as much as anybody else is. And so, yeah, I think I now move in a sense of pride, actually, more than like fear of being in these rooms. I'm proud to be one of the only ones in these spaces. And so now it's, instead of kind of being intimidated by it as I used to be, I'm growing to be more confident and more proud to be one of the only ones in these rooms, while also thinking of how can I get other people in these rooms? How can I recommend
Hmm.
somebody? How can I build relationships with this team so that when they need somebody, I can refer somebody that I know, or I can recommend someone that
Hmm.
I know for their roles and stuff like that, you know?
Hmm. Well, I mean, this is so obvious, but obviously you're an asset in that room because you could talk about a demographic that is not represented in that room. And if they're in marketing and they're in advertising, not that every demographic is homogenous or that you can speak for all Hispanic people in the United States, but you certainly are going to bring a perspective that's different than everybody else in that room. So hopefully they're starting to recognize that, although it's about, I don't know, 250 years too late, but if we're starting to recognize that. So I wanted to ask you then some of what you got for Romeo and for yourself, because you ended up at the Super Bowl, right? You were at the Super Bowl. Romeo ended up, was it a Hyundai driving across the country? So can you just briefly like run down some of those things?
Yeah, so it's been an incredible year. I mean, a whirlwind year, doing so many firsts, so many things that I, could only have ever dreamed of. So following the Dr. Pepper, success, we definitely had a ton of brands reaching out to collaborate with Romeo, but we were really selective on who we wanted to collaborate with. Not doing jingles for everybody, to keep the jingle exclusive and to not lose value within the jingle. If we had given jingles to everybody, it starts to lose its value. It starts to lose
Yeah.
its attraction. And so we kept it really limited, but we did do one for Vita Coco and one for Hyundai. And so it was fun because we went to Hyundai and pitched them doing a road trip. So Romeo did a road trip from Seattle to Nashville, and documented it. Just had a blast doing their first road trip in their life.
Hmm.
That was really fun. And then with Vita Coco, we ended up doing a jingle with them. The jingle did so well; they loved it. It just did numbers for them. It did really well for their sales, and so they ended up taking us to the Super Bowl. And so we were able to go to the Super Bowl. We sat, I think it was like 7 rows up, right
Wow.
behind the Seattle team. It was just a blast, like going out there and experiencing something like that for the first time. We've been on a couple of red carpets for Romeo. Romeo's won a couple of massive awards. And so it's just been, yeah, it's been a blast, just a whirlwind. Got to go meet Gail King at the Today Show. Romeo got to go on the morning. It was, I'm sorry, not the Today Show.
CBS Mornings.
CBS Mornings, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is what it was. And so we got to go to that and meet Gail King and the host. And so it was just a really good time. It's been, like I said, so many firsts, so many things that still blow my mind that'll be memories for the rest of my life.
And you mentioned earlier about some rooms that you were in at Cannes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was incredible. The people that we were able to meet, just with Romeo being highly recognized right now, still 6 months later after the jingle, we were being invited to just a lot of special different places, a lot of different rooms, but definitely the fun room and the most fruitful one that came from it was we got to meet Will I Am, actually, from the Black Eyed
Oh,
Peas.
whoa.
And so we got to. You were saying earlier, oh, that's where this came about how I have this knack for knowing where we need to be at the right
Mm-hmm.
time. And
Mm-hmm.
so one thing that I looked at in going to Cannes this year was, instead of, so I went in 24 and I spent my time organizing where I was going to be based on what I wanted to learn. But then I
Mm-hmm.
left that session and I realized that I didn't learn anything. Like, everything is just very regurgitated. Nobody's saying anything new.
Yeah.
It's just the same old thing that you would find at any other conference. And so for 26 this past year, instead of mapping out what I wanted to learn, I mapped out who I wanted to meet. And so will.i.am is somebody that I wanted to get Romeo in front of. Romeo really respects will.i.am and is one of their idols in the music space. And so I got us to this villa. I got us some. I through LinkedIn, through some LinkedIn connections, I found this super secret villa that will.i.am was going to be at. That it was an invitation only. So I got a hold of them. I got them to invite me and Romeo to let us in. And so when we were in Cannes, we went to that event, and it's a villa, and then they have a stage at the front of the villa. And so I was just using context clues and problem solving and deciding like, okay, where's the green room first off? And the green room is obviously inside the house because it's
Mm-hmm.
blazing hot outside. So then
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, where's the path from the house to the stage that these people are going to take? And
Right.
so I positioned ourselves on the path that I knew they were going to go from the house to the stage. And so we got to meet Will on his way onto the stage. We got to have a quick conversation with him. He really loved Romeo. And then after the session, we found our way back into the house, into the green room. And Will I Am was there, and he recognized Romeo at that point. And so he was just raving about Romeo, and it was just awesome. And the thing that I was proud of myself was that I had this idea that I had been wanting to pitch to somebody that a music producer, a music engineer. And
Mm-hmm.
so Will I Am was right in front of me, and so I ended up asking him or pitching him an idea. As scared as I was, my voice was shaking. I was anxious because I wasn't sure. I'm like, man, should I really even ask? This is the first time I'm meeting him, but I ended up doing it, and he was all for it. He was excited for the idea. Um,
Whoa.
so yeah, that was the probably the coolest room. But that happened so many times where we were just in rooms where I was just amazed at who we were with, who we were around. So it was really cool.
Is anything happening with the pitch?
Yeah, the conversations are continuing, and we're figuring
Mm-hmm.
it out, and taking it to the next level and seeing what we can make happen. So
Are you able to tell us anything about what it is?
not able to say anything
No.
just
Okay.
yet, but
Not
it's
yet.
definitely
Okay.
like it's got to do with Romeo and Will I Am. So I'm
Oh,
excited.
wow. Oh,
Yeah,
that is exciting.
yeah.
Okay, so and I know now you also recently signed a new client that's really exciting as well, right? Another
hmm
very young person who's making waves in the content space.
Yeah, yeah. So I signed. His name's Max Mendoza. His brothers are just blowing up in the sports space. His oldest brother Fernando was just drafted. He won the Heisman Trophy. Funny enough, he was playing that college national championship game where
Oh, where the
Romeo's
jingle played?
commercial, yeah, where the Dr.
Hmm.
Pepper jingle commercial aired, and so yeah, so Fernando won the Heisman Trophy. He won that championship game, and then he was the number one NFL draft recruit during draft weekend a couple weeks ago. So he was drafted to the Las Vegas Raiders as their quarterback. And then they have a middle brother. His name is Alberto, and he is starting quarterback for Georgia Tech in Atlanta this year. And
Oh,
so
wow.
Max's brothers they're blowing up in the sports space. They've got a lot of attention that's gearing towards them, and just being the kind, thoughtful, loving brothers that they are. They're passing off some of that attention to Max, or bringing in Max when they can, because Max wants to be the next Jimmy Fallon, he says, and so he wants to interview people.
Hmm.
He wants to broadcast. He wants to be on TV, and so his proximity and his relationship to his brothers has opened up some doors for him that we're helping him step into and really take advantage of. And so a lot of exciting things ahead for him for sure.
Well, it's going to be really exciting to see what you do with him. So I just want to touch on two more things. One of which I can't believe we skipped over this part, but that once you started with Romeo, you had a full-time corporate job during that period, right? And you had to make a decision about your career. So can you talk a little bit about that? I can't believe we skipped that part, but we
Yeah,
discussed it earlier, just the
I
two of
forgot
us.
about it
So
too. Yeah,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
And so so when I left the LinkedIn agency, when I got the exit and buyout from that agency that I'd grown, like I said, I immediately knew I wanted to get in the creator space. I can't tell you how many emails I'd sent out to creators, trying to get somebody to allow me to manage them, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And I was a little burnt out from the LinkedIn ghostwriting space, and so I got to this place in August of 25 where I was like, man, well, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this creator management thing isn't going to pan out for me. Maybe I need to
Hmm.
look at something else. I'd got my buyout from the agency, but savings was dwindling, of course, and so I'm like, I need to do something. I need to maybe I'm just supposed to live an average life, and maybe I'm just supposed to work a 9 to 5 and just be happy and do local work. And so I found a job. It was director of marketing, and it was for a company that I actually enjoyed. They provided therapy for people who had brain injuries, and so rehabilitation
Oh,
therapy they
interesting.
provided.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it was aligned with my values, and it was nice. I had a good time. When I went on, I kind of demanded my schedule. I have to drop off my kids at school every day, and I have to pick them up, and the rest I'm working
Hmm.
remote. And so they honored that for me. So I got to go in at 9:30 every day, and I got to leave at 2:30 every day, and then just work a couple hours remote from home. And so it was good. Everything was good. I had the best health insurance that I had ever had. I So many good things going for me at that job. That we were talking about promotion immediately already. Actually, I got hired on as a marketing manager, and then quickly within a month they moved me to director of marketing. And then they
Oh,
were already
wow.
having conversations of moving me up into an executive position or C-suite position. And so everything was going good. But then again, things started to pop off with Romeo. All these things started to happen with Romeo. I had to go to New York to have some meetings and the morning shows and all that stuff. And then the Super Bowl. And I was going to be gone for about 3 or 4 weeks. And so I knew that the job wasn't going to allow that, and so I really had to make a decision of either
Mm-hmm.
taking my chance and seeing where this creator manager journey could take me, or staying comfortable and keeping my really good job, my good pay, good insurance, security, and all that good stuff. But so grateful that my wife encouraged me to really step into what I've always loved to do, which isn't a 9 to 5 and isn't sitting in an office. and
Hmm.
and so I ended up taking the route of taking a chance on myself and seeing where it would take me.
Were you scared to do that when you handed in your resignation?
Oh, 100%. I knew when I took Romeo on, and how much I saw everything was taking off. The Dr. Pepper jingle kept blowing up.
Mhm.
The Vita Coco jingle, we had closed that on like January 6th or 7th. And I didn't turn in my resignation until the 18th of January. And
Mm.
so I knew as things were building up, I knew that things were happening and that I needed to make a decision. But I was also really loyal, and committed to those people. I'm a man of my word, and my word means everything to me. And so that was one thing that I was like, man, I don't want to go back on my word. I already told them I would be present. I told them I would be here for them. After some just inner dialogue and from past therapy work, I realized that I was more people pleasing than pleasing myself, and doing something that
Mhm.
really going to make me happy.
Mm.
And so in staying there, I would have just been trying to please other people and get people to like me. And
Yeah.
on this other end, it was like I was actually chasing what my soul was desiring.
Yeah. That's a good motivator to persist through the fear of quitting your job, I think. So I want to end on you telling us what you did when you got to that point with Romeo. What role do you play in Romeo's career now?
Yeah. At this point, I have 6 clients that I'm managing in total.
Wow.
And so in total, I think we've surpassed 2 million with all of our clients, all the clients that I'm supporting in the last couple of months. And yeah, I mean, I'm super blessed. I'm super grateful to be in a position to where my clients continue to trust me and continue to
Mhm.
buy into me because of who I am. I mean, Romeo and I spent a week together in France. I've been everywhere that Romeo's been.
Mhm.
Um, and we've developed a friendship. It's not just a working relationship. Like, I'm not just Romeo's
Right.
manager, I'm Romeo's friend. Romeo calls me when they're down, or when they have a question, or when they just want to catch up, or just ask how the family's doing, or just tell me about something fun that happened. And the same for my other clients, is like developing those relationships.
Yeah. But didn't you send Romeo to a different agency?
Yeah, so yeah, so when it makes sense, like again, because I know I'm not like the end all be all, and I don't know everything, and I don't have all the answers. I don't come with years of connections and access, and
Hmm.
so when it came to Romeo, Romeo had a ton of agents and managers reaching out to represent Romeo, and so like the Dr. deal, the Vita Coco deal, the Hyundai deal, I negotiated all of those on my own. I can
Hmm.
negotiate very well. For my other clients that I have, I'm negotiating for them. I can negotiate the deals, but we got to a place of, what's best for Romeo, not just what's best for me. Because what's best for me is to keep more percentage, is to
Yeah,
keep
that's why I'm bringing this up.
revenue in
Yeah.
my pocket. But what was best for Romeo was how quick can we get access to contacts? How quick can we get into rooms that, would be harder to get into? And so I made the decision to bring in experts in their area. And so we brought in CAA for Romeo to, help initiate, ignite some relationships,
Hmm.
kind of fast track some of the stuff that would take longer for me to do on my own, because again it's like thinking as a manager, it's not just what's best for me, but it's what's best for the client and what's best for their goal and getting them to where they want to be in the end.
I think people would be really, really surprised that you did that. I don't think a lot of people would do that because you obviously gave up income, you gave up a percentage. Was Romeo surprised when you made that suggestion?
I don't think they were, honestly. I think um, Romeo coming from a space of not fully, I wouldn't say Romeo was naive about the industry, but wasn't fully like in the know of how everything works and what's the difference
Yeah.
between an agent or a manager and stuff like that. By the time we were having the conversation about CAA, we had met each other in person quite a few times. And so I think
Hmm.
Romeo already knew just the type of person that I was, and that I was really truly did have like their best interest in mind and not just what I could do on my own. Um,
Hmm.
so I don't think it was a surprise to Romeo just knowing that I'm I own my weaknesses, I own my faults, my gaps,
Hmm.
because I did it from the beginning. Again, with when I signed Romeo, it's like I don't have a Rolodex of experience. I don't have a college um, crew that I can reach out to, or campus or
Yeah.
any alumni group or anything like that. It's like, so I've always been honest with Romeo. So I don't think it was a surprise. I think it was just more of just who I was and them knowing that.
Yeah, I think it's where you all started with that initial email with who you are, right? So you're still part of Romeo's team, but CAA is now also on the team. Is that a good way to characterize it?
Yeah. Yep,
Okay.
yep. I'm managing, and so when it comes to in all these situations, some creators will have just an agent, which an agent just navigates just the deals, and then some creators will have just a manager, and then a manager will sometimes do both. They'll manage negotiations, and then they'll manage the big picture of the person's career, looking at long
Hmm.
term strategies, long term
Hmm.
plays, and stuff like that. So yeah, right now for Romeo, I'm able to focus more on the big picture, on the strategy, the details, and then while CAA focuses on bringing in the deals and
On the
the
deals.
then for like my other clients who don't have agents, I'm playing both agent and manager for them.
So, what is, I know there's something next because you're always moving, you're always thinking, what is next? And what, if anything, are you still afraid of that you're going to go ahead and do anyway?
Um, that's funny that you asked that. I think what I'm most afraid of is starting my own thing. Is growing this. I think it's like all of the unknowns, again, all the fears of my lack of experience, the fears of not being not being embraced in the industry. Like it's not easy to get help or get insight or get support or ask questions
Hmm.
or get help from people who've been there. It's a very cutthroat industry and everybody's out for themselves. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of fear and again of what I don't know, what I haven't experienced in starting my own thing, but I know that it's the time I have to do it. It's I continue to have clients that are really good, successful clients doing well coming my way, asking me to manage them, and it's like I can't say no. It's like they're good people. They're doing good work. We align
Mhm.
in values and morals, and it's like I want to help them. And so that's the one thing that I'm stepping into. And then aside and that combines with what's next. You know, what's next is I'm doing things that I've never done before. That I've, you know, I'm building shows for with clients. I'm, building IP products with clients. I'm asking,
Wow.
for things that I've never asked before. I'm meeting with people, heads and directors and C suites of different companies, that I've never been in and talked to. And so there's a lot of exciting things that are coming, a lot of projects, a lot of creative projects. One thing for my clients is thinking beyond social media. And so social media brand deals are just like the very initial entry level step to where creators can be. And so it's like that,
Mhm.
and creators can survive there and they can live there and just doing brand deals. But that eventually, at some point, it ends. And at some point, people just get tired of it, just doing brand deals all the time, brand deals all the time. And so
Mhm.
now it's like about coming in as again the big picture, the manager, the strategist, thinking big picture. Okay, so how can we make this last? How can we make this attention or what you're building last longer? And
Right.
so, is it building a TV show? Is it building a movie show? Is it building a product that you like? Is it building an app? Like right now, I'm building a show around Max Mendoza, my young client, and I was on a production call last night, and just getting off of that call of like, wow, like I can't believe we're literally building a show based off of just ideas that we're just throwing out, like just random conversations that we're having and random ideas that we're like, we should try this or we should try that. And so I'm having a blast, but it's definitely scary because I've never done it before. I
Mhm.
I'm figuring it out as I go, but I think I feel good about it. I know again proof points of the many other times that I've done things
Yep.
I didn't know
Yep.
exactly how it was going to come together. I didn't know every little detail, and it still worked out.
Mhm. Well, I'm so happy for you. I am so excited for you. It's been so great to have a front row seat to this journey of yours. And please keep us posted on what's happening with all your clients and what happens with the show with Max and with the collab with Will I Am.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm so excited. I am so grateful for your invitation to the conversation, and definitely excited to continue and keep you updated and stay, up to date with you. And hopefully we'll be back on another episode down the road, and we
Hopefully.
can,
Yeah,
do some updates and
it'd
catch
be
up.
great. Thank you. Hopefully we blow up and then I can become a client.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my dream.
Sounds good,
Okay. Thank you.
Jamie.
Okay, thanks for watching Bodacious Tenacity. Until next time.